You're listening to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. I'm Allison Boyle, aka She Dreams of Alpine, and this is the show that's dedicated to all the adventurous spirits out there who have either been transformed by the outdoors or are interested in what it looks like to step into a new, adventurous, and courageous kind of identity in their life. It doesn't matter what your background is in the outdoors, what age you're starting at, or where you grew up. If you're curious about the outdoors and using adventure as a way to reinvent yourself, you're in the right place. I'll be sharing all kinds of personal adventure stories, lessons I've learned from the mountains, teaching what I know about the outdoors and leadership, and interviewing some amazing adventurous women all along the way. I've been coaching women on becoming safe, confident, and self-sufficient backpackers and leaders of their own adventurous lives since 2018, and I know exactly what big fears and self-doubts can pop up along the way. I have so much to share with you, so let's dive in. All right. Welcome back to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast, everyone. You are listening to episode 31. And today I have a very special guest with me. I have Nicole Snell from Girls Fight Back. You might know her as Adventures of Nick on Instagram as well. We are so excited to have you on the podcast, Nicole. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I feel like this has been a long time coming, but I mean, I haven't had the podcast that long, but I feel like we've been talking forever, and I know that you are going to be a big hit on this podcast. So I'm super stoked to have you here. Maybe to just get our listeners started, would you give us like a brief background on yourself? Introduce yourself. What do you do? Because not everyone might have heard of you.
Yes, absolutely. My name is Nicole Snell. I'm the CEO of Girls Fight Back and the founder of Outdoor Defense. I'm an international speaker and self-defense expert, and I specialize in gender-based violence prevention and sexual assault prevention, self-defense, personal safety, and empowerment. And I travel, speak, and train around the world, all different types of audiences, because my goal is to help people live without limits.
Yes. And y'all that are listening who know me and know the podcast a little bit, you can see why we connect so well with Nicole and her mission. And it aligns so much with everything that we've done at She Dreams of Alpine. I meant to look this up, but we've been working with Nicole for a few years now. I remember that I think my team and I were talking about one of the biggest things that comes up for our students is self-defense in the outdoors, or like going alone and things like that. And we were like, well, we're not experts in that. So we have our opinions and our thoughts on it, but we would like love to bring an expert more into the loop with our like backpacking badass program. And that's when my former employee, Katie, she had been following you, and she was like, you need to check out Nicole Snell and what she's doing. And that was the first time I had heard of you. And we were like sold right away. We were like, oh, we want to work with Nicole. We want to bring her in. We want to like do workshops with y'all. So we have been working with Nicole with our Backpacking Badass program. She will come in and do special workshops sometimes. She'll do like the Yes, I'm Hiking solo workshops. So yeah, that's been a super fun partnership with you. And it's been fun to like see you grow and develop over the years too.
Thank you so much. I love working with you. I love working with She Dreams of Alpine. I think our missions align so perfectly that it just makes sense.
It does.
And like everything that you're teaching is so important. And then this extra layer of it, it's just all about empowerment overall. So I love that we're able to do that together.
Yeah, and I think like one thing maybe I'm curious about that you can shed some light on is I know that you kind of you got into working or owning Girls Fight Back. And were you always kind of like interested in working also in tandem with the outdoor space? Because I know that's not the only thing you do. You don't do self-defense in the outdoors only. You do like just in general. Kind of how did that like getting into like empowering hikers and backpackers and stuff kind of start for you?
Well, that it started really because I had a lot of friends who saw the connection between the work I was doing with self-defense
Yeah.
and the other thing that I do. Like, oh, Nicole's that she's the one that goes out and hikes by herself. She's the one who goes out and backpacks by herself and she travels by herself. Hey, have you thought about putting those two things together? And I always said to myself, no, nobody cares about what I have to say about that. No one would listen. No one is
To the
like, I just
contrary.
Yeah, I was very much in like imposter syndrome, and like no one wants to, like no one would
Yeah.
put those two things together. It doesn't fit. And so I had been, I've been an outdoors person my whole life and going outdoors even before I had formal self-defense training,
Yeah.
and solo traveling, same thing. And then I got into teaching self-defense about 10 years ago now,
Okay.
11 years ago now. And, I just felt like it was so important to get that information to as many people as possible, but didn't quite see how the two would fit together.
Yeah.
And then after years of several friends saying like, you need to put them together, you need to put them together, I said, okay, I'll start a YouTube series called Outdoor Defense. And that's really when
Mm.
it started.
Okay.
And to it was to offer self-defense skills and safety strategies for solo hikers,
Yeah,
and
totally.
addressing the things that a lot of times women are being told, or the things that they would say to me, or random people telling me like, oh, aren't you afraid, isn't it dangerous? And
Yes.
just using what I know to, instead of creating more fear and making people
Right.
think the outdoors is really unsafe, because it's really not
Yeah.
comparatively,
Yeah.
give them realistic skills that can get rid of that fear, right? Like it's not about causing more fear. It's about taking the fear that people already have and finding a way to eliminate it, or to
Right.
reduce it, or to put things in perspective so that that fear is not a barrier to doing things you want to do.
Yeah, like so much of our fear is borrowed from stories or like, conversations people have told us and not necessarily based on like a personal like situation that we've had. Of course, there's life just comes with risk and danger and there are things that happen to people and that's the work that you're doing is like helping people empower that. But in the outdoors, like I think it's a common misconception. Like if you go outdoors solo as a woman, it's like very unsafe. And that is really important work that you're doing to like help people see kind of what the reality is of that and also equipping them with tools to like feel like they have control over that if they do encounter a situation that is unwanted. It's like with like animal encounters, I think you always want to try to prevent an encounter, right? Like you're doing all these things and you're being prepared even though the likelihood of you having like an unwanted encounter is really low. Like we still prepare ourselves for those situations and educate ourselves. So that's great. And then like so you started the YouTube series, which is amazing, by the way. Everyone should check out Nicole's YouTube. I'm always just side note, so impressed by all the things Nicole does. Speaking, traveling, YouTube series, doing workshops, all of these things. She does it all. That YouTube series is great. Where was I going with this? Oh, how did you just start your workshop kind of as like when did that come about? Because you do a workshop for our clients sometimes called the Yes, I'm Hiking Solo workshop. When did you start that?
So I started that after, so I started the YouTube series in 2019, and then we all know what happened in 2020. The entire
Yes.
world shut down, and it started getting more views because what were we encouraged to do during
Mm.
COVID?
Yeah.
Be by ourselves, social distance. If you did anything, you couldn't be in a big group. And, people were encouraged to go be by themselves or limit their exposure to people. So a lot more people were getting outside. And then I have this whole series on, safety for solo hiking, and it took on a whole new meaning. And then during COVID, it wasn't just COVID that people were worried about. They were worried about people who were angry, people who were frustrated. There were all these different things going on because our
Yeah, that's
society is a,
real. Yeah.
yeah, our society as a collective just had this unprecedented thing happen, and
Yes.
people are trying to deal with it emotionally and mentally.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of worries about that. And so I got invited onto a podcast, and then I did the podcast. Am I allowed to say the name of the other podcast?
Yeah, totally.
It was a She Explores. It was a She
Okay.
Explores podcast.
Yeah.
And they had seen my video, they had seen my YouTube, and then they asked me to be on. And so I did that. And then I started getting people contacting me requesting a
Mm.
workshop on that. And so I didn't really have a workshop. It was just a YouTube series. And then I had my
Yes.
other workshops that I do for colleges and military and corporate. And I thought, well, I'm going to create a workshop and I'm just going to call
Yeah.
it Yes, I'm Hiking Solo. And actually, wait. I think, wait a second, hold on. I think there was a piece before that. The piece before that is I was a brand ambassador for a company, and there were like several guides where everyone kind of was in their own state and city and doing these things. And one of the other guides was doing a virtual outdoor, like a summit.
Yeah.
And actually, this is the beginning. This is the story.
I know. I forget sometimes too. It's been so long. You're like, wait, no, this is where it started.
Like the
Yes,
chronology
it
of
all
it gets
kind of
all
starts to
mixed.
blend after a while. Yeah.
Yes, but he asked me to be in his summit, and I said, "Okay, sure. Like, I don't know what you want me to talk about. I mean, I guess I could do something about solo hiking." He goes, "Oh yeah, I know women, are usually worried about that, or that's what I've heard, and it might be useful, it might be helpful." So I was like, "Okay, I'll do one, and I'll call it Yes, I'm hiking solo," because I wanted it to be an
Love it.
affirmation, like to
Yeah.
people
Like,
who are
hell yeah,
like,
I'm hiking solo. Yeah.
"Yeah, like, is this even a question?" Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
am hiking solo. Like, and I'm going to
Yeah.
enjoy myself. What?
Yeah.
So I did that. When he promoted it, he was like, there were so many women who were interested in this and so
Mm,
many women who thought it was valuable. And then he asked his wife about it because he is a man, like he walks around the world in a
right. With a
man's
different
body.
lens and a different, yeah, experience, just to be
Com-
honest.
Completely different perspective. And so he asked his wife about it because he's like, yeah, your workshop is cool, but I don't know if, he wasn't sure like it was something that people needed. And when he
Right.
talked to his wife, hey, are you ever worried when you're out solo? And she's like, yes, I think about that all the time. And he says, but you never tell me. And he's like, she told him like, well, it's not something I necessarily want to verbalize to you, but it is something that I'm thinking about. So that
Right.
changed his perspective of it, of like, wow, there's all these women walking around and this is something they're concerned about. And they don't always say it, but it's something that we worry about because
Right.
of all
It's
those
so funny
stories.
because we do it all like I think as women, or I think maybe something, not all men, I'm sure, but like men don't understand is like we've been like thinking about these things our whole lives, like in all different contexts. So it's like it's just always in the back of your mind, your awareness, and you're just kind of like extra aware in any situation that you're in. It's just like this spidey sense that you constantly have. Yeah. And that
Yeah.
goes to the outdoors as well. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. So you did that
I
summit.
did. Yeah, I did that summit. And then I'm like, I think this could be a workshop that I could add to my, my programs list, my
Yeah.
catalog. And so I think I added it to the website and then I don't remember which came first, but I did the podcast and then I
Yeah.
started getting people asking me for this, like brands, outdoor groups, retreats, running retreats. And a lot of people were doing things virtually, but then I was invited to come and do these things when we were able to gather in groups again. So it became something I offered, and it's one of my most popular programs because it's something
It's a
that's so
great
empowering.
program. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've done it like I think at least 4 or 5 times with you over like I
Yeah,
can't remember exactly the year we started working together, but I want to say 2021 or 2022,
I think
maybe.
2021.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, because it was like shortly after COVID is how I remember it too.
Yes.
So yeah, but the timelines, yeah, I know. I just know it's been a bit. That's amazing. I was always curious about kind of where that came in for you. This actually kind of like I feel like is a nice segue into the next question, and then I have something else I want to ask you about. But you mentioned that you did grow up in the outdoors, so I'm really curious about like your story. It's different than mine. Like I didn't grow up in the outdoors. You did grow up spending time outside. So like walk us through your kind of like story a bit, like what wild spaces mean to you, how the outdoors kind of has shaped you as a person, and like where you're at currently.
Yeah, so I grew up in the desert. My dad was a retired Marine, and so I grew up in 29 Palms, which is out by
Mhm.
Joshua Tree. So anyone who's
Yep.
been to Joshua Tree, like that's where I grew up.
Yeah.
And even though I have always been an outdoorsy person, my family was not always outdoorsy. So it's not
Okay.
like we didn't spend every weekend hiking in Joshua Tree or anything like that. We
Yeah.
would go like maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. Sometimes I think we didn't go at all. But
Okay.
I lived in a place where, it's a town. I mean, I think it's considered a city
Yeah,
now,
you
but
had
it's
like
a
you had nature more accessible. Sometimes that helps. Yeah.
yeah, like I could walk out my door. Remember, there was a big field next to our house. And so I would just go walk in the field, when I was young and couldn't go much farther. So,
Yeah.
my mom could watch me through the big window and see where I was. But I
Right.
would go out and just, I would collect rocks. I would try to find lizards. I just love to be outdoors.
Yeah.
And growing up, my home was not always a safe place. So I
Mm.
experienced abuse and violence in my home as a
Mm.
child.
Yeah.
And so getting outside was how I could escape. It
Yeah.
was really the safe place
Your
for me to
safe
be.
space. Yeah.
Whether that was the backyard, sometimes it was just the backyard if I
Yeah.
wasn't allowed to go, and then you're a kid. So you have rules about where you can go. You can't just say, I'm just going to go on a solo hike. It wasn't
Yeah.
until I got older and, high school age or, junior high school age when I would be allowed to, venture a little bit further and go a few blocks away or ride my bike farther away and have that time. But it was a time for me to finally be peaceful, for
Yeah.
me to just breathe it in. Like just the mountains, the way the mountains turn purple in the desert when the sun sets is just something that is just so near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
And I've always loved it. I always just loved how clear the sky was and just the beauty of the desert. And then in school, they would always, we would go on field trips to the Oasis of Mara and Amboy Crater and some other, notable places around the town and surrounding areas. So we would learn about not as much about indigenous history as we should have been taught, but again,
Yeah.
super small desert town.
Yeah.
And nature and things. And so I was really deep into like biology and animals and plants. I thought that's what I was going to do for work. Like I was going to be something to do with animals and plants or rocks, like a geologist.
In a weird way, you are in some way, like, you've incorporated some of those things into what you do. But yeah, totally.
Yeah.
We all have crazy dreams when we're little.
Yes, absolutely. And you're right. Like I love all those things and I don't have to choose. Like that's the beauty of it, right? Like you don't have to choose. You don't have to be a biologist to still love animals or to be able to identify plants. You don't have to be a botanist. Like you can have a wide ranging interests and knowledge about lots of different topics. And so when I graduated from high school, right, there were things that I was allowed to do in the outdoors, but it wasn't a lot, right? Like walking basically in my neighborhood. But there were things I wanted to do that I wasn't allowed to do. And so when I got to college, when I had freedom, I was like, now you can't stop me. Like, what can I do? What can I see? And then as I got older and got, jobs where I was making more money and jobs where I was actually traveling for work. And then I started solo traveling and then wanting to explore the outdoors in different countries and different places. And then it has just continued to be this object of discovery for me. Like the outdoors, it's just never the same. Even the same trail is never the same. And
no, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
It's beautiful and it's enriching to my mental health in a way that it's very hard for me to put into words. And it's one of the only times in life that I can be absolutely present is when I'm outside.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like Michael and I went on this hike the other day and we've been working a lot. We've had like a lot of big projects, both him and I, and we went on a hike. We did like a little weekend adventure to Salida 2 nights. And then we went on this one hike and it was just one of those beautiful days, simple trail, nothing epic, like nothing crazy, but we were both just like, wow, we're so lucky. Like we get to be here and be out here and just so amazing. Like it's just hard to describe sometimes like how important like outdoor spaces are. Like it's more of like this feeling that you get of like just gratitude and just like understanding yourself and like what's important. I don't know. I every time I go out, like there's always something that clicks for me, even when it's hard. I'm just like, wow, I'm really grateful for like having this and having these spaces.
Yeah.
I had a question about that, like your story. I'm curious, like when you got into backpacking, because I know you do a bit of backpacking now. So since you didn't really, it sounds like you didn't really do much when you were younger. Was that in college?
No, so I didn't take my first backpacking trip until I went to Peru and did the Inca Trail.
Oh,
That
cool.
was 2015,
Oh,
2016.
nice.
So
Okay.
yeah, growing up, I think we camped a couple times with like a local group.
Yeah.
I remember it having such a profound effect on me when we camped in Joshua Tree. And it was just
Yes.
so cool because there's the fire and then the
Joshua Tree
stars,
is
like,
so epic. Yeah.
oh, just beautiful. And I wanted to do it more. But again, like my family wasn't outdoorsy. So
Yeah.
like the one or two times I went, it felt very like profound, but we
Mhm.
didn't backpack, we didn't camp. And then something else that I want to add to it that sometimes I forget to say is my aunt. So I am very, very close to my aunt and uncle, and they live
Yeah.
in the Western Sierras near Shaver Lake, like above
Okay.
Fresno.
Mhm.
And growing up, we went and visited. And to me, those are such core memories. It feels like I was there every weekend or like every
Yeah.
summer. And I wasn't. I was there maybe 5 times growing up. But I remember going there. They have a big house. in the mountains on a
Yeah.
hill,
Oh,
and
that's
they had
epic.
dogs. They had like acres of land separated by, barbed wire. There were cows on the neighbor's property, donkeys,
Yeah.
and it was just, I was a little kid and I loved all of those things, and I could collect rocks. The neighbor was a professor at a university and knew I loved rocks. And so he would let me look at his rock collection, and like all of it helped reignite that, because it was a totally different environment than the desert,
Yeah.
right? Now I'm
Yeah.
in the
Very
mountains with
different.
trees.
Hmm.
And that really added to it, because there my aunt was very much like, go, like, touch whatever you want, and like, let's explore,
This
and
is
this
how
and
aunts
that.
should be, right? Like I'm working on being like the best auntie.
She's amazing. Her and my uncle are so great, and such an integral part of my life even now.
Yeah.
And so that, I feel like, added to my love. But okay, to backpacking, I hadn't backpacked, didn't grow up backpacking, didn't know anything about it, had
Yeah.
wanted to camp like in college, but I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't know anyone else who did. I didn't
Right.
want to spend all the money to get the stuff. I didn't have a network or resources of what to
Yeah.
do. So I just didn't. And then as I got older and started being connected with more people and, more resources online, and then I was like, I'm going to Machu Picchu because that is just something I'm
Yeah.
going to
Bucket
do.
list.
Yeah. And so I backpacked, and it's technically backpacking, but so I knew that it was going to be hard because I knew it was going to be hard because it was going to be a high elevation.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I paid an extra porter to carry like the heavy stuff, like
Yeah. Yeah.
like all the things. And then I just had to carry a day pack.
Yeah, that's
So
pretty common for those trails. Like a lot of those, like South America or like people who do Kilimanjaro, like having porters or like, yeah,
the porters make the trip. They are worth their weight in gold. They were
yeah,
amazing. And
totally.
so they set up your camp, they set up your tent. So I was technically backpacking, but I wasn't like solo. I wasn't self-sufficient
Right, but it was
backpacking,
your
so to speak.
taste,
Yeah.
like yeah, you whatever like sparks the curiosity to do more is like so valuable. And I bet that was such a unique experience for you.
It was amazing. It was amazing. The
Yeah.
first day was hard. I wanted to quit. The
Yeah, totally.
second day was even harder, but I was like, I made it through the first day. And then the third and fourth day, as we get into the cloud forest and we're coming into the Sacred Valley, oh my gosh, just
Uh,
gorgeous.
I
So
haven't
then
been,
I
but I
was,
really want to. Yeah.
oh, you have to go. I'll show you my itinerary.
Okay.
We can plan it. But after that trip, I thought to myself, a lot of the places we saw, you couldn't see any other way. You have to backpack.
Yeah.
I said to myself, I want to do more backpacking. Like
Yeah.
now I know, now it's not a scary thought in my mind. Now I know kind of
You have
what to
your
think about.
first tangible experience and
Yeah.
it's like giving you the courage to like seek out more. Yeah.
Yep. And then
Yeah.
I said, okay, now I know what to look for. You start upgrading your gear, you start talking to folks, start looking at other trails, and like, yeah, now I love backpacking too.
I love it. Yeah, cool. I just had never heard of that before or heard that story of yours before. One other question that I just had because like you're California based currently, right? So
Yes.
do you feel really called and like I don't know, how do I best ask this? Like does California feel like home, like where you're when you miss something, you're like, "Oh, the desert is like where I feel like most at home," or like where do you feel like is there a particular space that kind of has that feeling for you?
That's an excellent question, by the way. And now you're going to make me think. I think I've traveled a lot, and California's home because it's home. Right? I've never
Yeah.
lived anywhere else, even though I've traveled to a lot of other places. And California just can't beat the weather. There's places I've considered that are also beautiful, but only during certain times of the year. I am
Yeah.
not a cold weather girly. Mm-mm. I will do
Yeah.
cold weather activities, but I do not want to live somewhere where I have to scrape my windshield or, start my car 20 minutes before I want to get in it. I don't like the
Yeah.
cold.
You just sleep
Um,
in a lot when you live somewhere cold. That's what I've found.
Yeah, I would be doing a lot of that and walking around with like a heated blanket. I mean, I do that here in California. I'm such a big cold weather baby. But I would say the desert always had a special place in my heart. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's because I grew up there, and
Yeah.
not just Joshua Tree area, but really kind of any desert. So like the
Yeah.
Utah desert, the
I
Nevada
love
desert.
Utah. Yeah.
I don't I feel like it's because there's almost a kinship there, and I'm going to try to articulate this. It's because Like a lot of people misunderstand the desert. They think it's empty, it's barren, nothing survives there, it's dead, it's dead. And it's really so unique of an ecosystem that
It
so
really
much
is.
actually lives there and thrives, and the
Yeah.
adaptations. And I feel like I have such an appreciation for that. And I don't really know why I have a kinship with like that type of space, the land and the plants and the connection between all of it. But I feel very connected to that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I only asked that because like I mean I grew up in Texas, so I lived there for I don't know, 23 years, but I that place doesn't feel like home to me anymore. Like when first got into the outdoors, it was the Eastern Sierras where I was like going every weekend. And like now, anytime, like even living here in Colorado, you could argue Colorado is amazing and it has so many great outdoor spaces, but there's something that just hits different when I like come to the Eastern Sierras. I'm just like, oh, I'm home. Like it feels like right, like my place. Like I don't know. It's probably just because it's kind of where I developed all of my skills and everything and like really special bonds. So I didn't know. It kind of seemed like you had a connection with California pretty deeply as well and the desert and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and I'm gonna second you on the Eastern Sierras because
Yeah.
wow, the first time I got out there, I was like, "What is
It's
this?" I will
epic.
I will tell you, I was so disrespectful. I was so disrespectful to Mount Whitney. The first time
What do
I
you
saw it,
mean?
first time I came into Lone Pine, my friend's like, "That's not Whitney." I go, "That's not very high.
Oh
That's it.
gosh.
That's it. That's
You
it. That's
probably
what
took
people."
those words back after you like did the 7,000 feet.
Oh yes, I ate those words. I ate those words
You
when
did
I
the
did.
day hike or?
No, I did it as a 6 day, 5 night backpacking
Oh,
trip.
nice.
We
Okay.
started south from Onion Valley and then came down, did
Oh,
Whitney, and then
that
came out the portal.
way better way to do it, I think.
It was awesome, epic, beautiful landscapes. Like again, I want to go back and backpack there
Yeah.
and just like stay by like Kearsarge or like right under like where Forester passes, like Tyndall Creek. All of it's just
Yeah.
beautiful. I just want to stay out there.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
haven't
when
been to a bad place yet out there.
No,
So
I don't think it's possible. But
I don't think it's
I would
possible.
say Alpine Lakes is another
Mm.
place that not just feels like home, but it just captures my spirit. Like to
Yes.
to be hiking and there's these rugged, gray,
Rugged, rocky
craggy mountains
mountains.
with
Yes.
snow, and then it's like
Yeah.
bright blue water with these green trees. Like, is this real? Where are
Yeah.
we?
I know. I feel the same. Yeah, and I feel similarly about the desert. The desert's kind of like next up there. Like I've done a couple trips into the Grand Canyon now, and I have like a massive respect. Like me and my friend Meg have had on the podcast here before. We have like jokes where like, the Canyon giveth, the Grand Canyon taketh, and all, like the Almighty GC, we call it. Like there's just all these things where just like you just have to respect the Grand Canyon in like a totally different way, but it teaches you so much and it's like so fascinating and there's so many different like facets and stuff. Anyways, we're going down a rabbit hole, but I'm just like I was curious. Okay. So one thing I wanted to bring up before we kind of like move into some of what you do and teach, you're actually something that's really exciting is you're officially a TEDx speaker.
I am.
And yeah, can you tell us more about that experience and what you know about when your talk will be available? I know it's still a little bit TBD or whatever you're able to share. I'm not sure if there's anything you're like not supposed to share, but yeah.
I'm not sure either. I'm pretty sure I can say
Okay.
anything because yeah, I will share. I think everything's fine to share.
Okay.
So I yes, I'm a TEDx speaker. I did my very
Very
first TED Talk.
exciting.
Thank you, thank you. I did my very first talk in November of last year, so November of 2024, and TEDx is you apply to be a TEDx speaker, and you can apply
Yeah.
to any TEDx. So I applied to TEDx Jacksonville because a woman who had found me online and she had listened to one of my podcasts and she connected so deeply with what I talked about. She was on the volunteer board of TEDx Jacksonville, where they're supposed to go out and like and invite people who they think would be a good TEDx speaker to apply.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a
Totally.
guarantee that you're going to get anything. It's just, hey, we think you should submit.
Yeah.
And so she had asked me back in 2022, have you ever done a TED Talk? And I said, no. And she's like, well, I would like to invite you to apply for a TED Talk for TEDx Jacksonville. And so that was the very first one I've ever applied for. So I applied for it. and I didn't get it. And I was so disappointed. I was like,
Oh,
oh my goodness. I thought I had such a great idea. And my
life,
idea,
man.
yeah,
Makes you fail a few times before you
yeah.
get it.
I was so disappointed. I thought like this was it. Like the universe is like going to
I
give me a
actually
TED
love
talk.
this story. I'm gonna say I love that this is, I mean, because I know that you end up getting it, but like I just think it's so valuable for people to hear about like, and I was rejected. And yeah,
Yes.
like this is part of most people's story. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's so true. Rejection is just part of it, right?
Yeah.
And the important part, and it's so cliche to be like, don't let the rejection, stop you and just keep going. But it's really true because if
Yeah,
we just
really
get
is.
into the rejection, sometimes that has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
I don't know why it was rejected, but I'm really glad that it was because
Right.
the topic that I picked wasn't actually the topic that I was most passionate about. So
Mm,
I didn't actually the one I submitted the first time was not about like safety in the outdoors and self-defense, even though that's something I'm really passionate about. And the reason I decided not to is because I thought, well, I don't want to pigeonhole myself. I don't want people
yeah.
to think I only talk about self-defense in the outdoors and safety.
Right.
And so I tried to have a more broader kind of idea because when you're submitting for a TED Talk, you're submitting an idea. You're not
Yeah.
submitting a title, you're not writing the whole talk, you're just submitting an idea. What do you think is important that could help benefit the world? And so I was rejected. And then I thought, well, okay, I slummed around 2022, 2023, didn't apply for any more TEDs.
Yeah.
2024 came about, and then I put on my vision board for that year, TEDx. I said, okay, this year I'm going to apply for a few ones because you can apply to any, and there's some in LA, there's some around. So I started looking, but I was not really looking very hard because I was also kind of still in my head.
Yeah.
And then the woman who had invited me back in 2022, she'd been following, like we became friends. Like we had been friends, like, connecting on social media throughout this time. And then she goes, okay, we're still accepting submissions. You have, here's the deadline. I think you should submit again. I think you should submit again. And I was like, okay. And this time I said, okay, I'm just going to fully lean in, like roll up your sleeves, fully lean into what I'm good
Yeah.
at and what I'm
Leave it
passionate
all
about.
on the table. Yeah.
Yeah. So my idea was how self-defense education can open up our access to the outdoors. And so I submitted it. I worked for hours. You had to do a video this time, a
I
video
was going to ask
submission.
you, is it like very intensive to do a submittal for the thing? Yeah.
Yes, because it's succinct. So there's like 4 or 5 questions on the application,
Yeah.
and you only have like 250 to 500 words to go into it.
Yeah.
And you don't have a lot of time. And I am verbose, but when you want me to be concise, it's hard.
Oh, same, honestly.
Yeah. So that was very hard. I did not use AI or anything for that, for my
Yeah.
application. So I answered all the questions. I did the video, submitted the materials, which they ask if there's anything else you want to submit. So, my YouTube channel, things like that. And I submitted, I'm like, okay, it's out of my hands, but I put hours of work into it.
Yeah.
And then I got an email saying, congratulations, you've moved on to the semifinals.
Mm.
And our topic. So you don't even know the topic of the TEDx that you apply for. You
Oh,
don't know what their theme
interesting.
is.
And
And
then you have to
so
kind of mold it around that once you learn it.
no, you don't have to mold it, but
Oh, okay.
they at least for this one, I don't know if this I can't speak for every
Yeah,
TED,
yeah.
but it seems like once they know their like the TEDx team who's reviewing the application, they know what their topic, what their theme is. And so they're picking speakers, they're picking applications that fit that theme.
Okay.
And so they were like, your topic, your idea fits this theme. Here's the theme. Is there anything else you want to say about it? And I was like, this is an invitation to write more.
Yeah.
So I responded, I added a little bit more, and then I crafted my idea to the theme. And so I was one of, I think, like 20, 22 semifinalists, and they have to narrow it down to 10. And then I forget how much time, maybe like a couple weeks later, I got an email that I was accepted. And I didn't open the email right away because I was so nervous because it doesn't say,
Yes.
it just says, your application.
Yeah.
And I was like,
oh my gosh, I've done that before.
open
I'm like, I
this?
need to be in the right headspace when I open this.
Yeah, like, is either going to be wildly happy or I'm going to be crushingly defeated.
Yeah. Yeah,
But I
that's a lot
opened
of
it.
work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's
I opened it
awesome.
and I got it and I was like, oh my gosh. And then the work began because now you have to write your talk.
Yeah. You're writing your talk
And
and you're speaking in front of a lot of people, right? Live?
the TEDx Jacksonville, they do it as, it's a TED conference and they did it
Yeah.
at, I think it was University of North Florida, the University of Florida. Oh, they're going to kill me for not knowing that. But
That's
we did it
okay.
in Florida, in Jacksonville, at the college there. And we had about 300 300 people that bought tickets and were there in the
Wow.
audience. And then they film it from like every angle. But I spent 90 hours working on my talk from the
Oh
time I was
yeah.
accepted in July until I gave it in November.
Did you work with a speaker? Because I feel like if I ever were to do something at that scale, like you public speak a lot. So I feel like you're probably pretty good at that. I would have to like work with like a coach because I feel like I would get nervous hardcore.
TEDx Jacksonville assigns you a speaker coach. So it's a
Oh,
volunteer from
cool.
the TEDx team. So they give you a coach to work with you. And then I also hired an outside coach because, yeah, I've been public speaking for 10 years, but I
Yeah.
also wanted to come in very humble. Right? A TEDx is completely different from any other talk. It's
Yeah.
not your signature talk. It's not the talk that you do, like the talk that you do when you're speaking to any other group or a conference. It's very specific and succinct, and the way you present and your body language and like everything's very specific. And I wanted to
Yeah.
just be open to learning. Like, I don't want to come in there and say, like, oh, I know how to, like, no, tell me, teach me. I'm an open book. I'm a
Yeah.
sponge. Fill my cup with knowledge.
That's
So
amazing.
I did work with coaches and they really helped me. They really helped me hone it in and like get my delivery down. And yeah.
Yeah. So wait, what ended up being like the final title of your TED Talk? Or does that want to be, do you want that to be a
Oh no,
surprise?
I can say. I think I
Okay.
can. I'm pretty sure I can say it. I mean, the TED Talk might be out by the time this airs, so
Yes.
maybe.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: you also don't pick your title until you're all done.
Oh,
You don't
okay.
pick your title until you're on stage, it's filmed, everything, and then you pick your title.
Honestly,
And
that makes
so,
sense. Yeah.
yes, my title is "What Would You Do If You Felt Safe?"
I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was the hardest part, I would say, is trying to pick a title that encompasses the whole talk. Because my talk was like 13 minutes, like right
Yeah.
around 13 minutes. And
See,
I,
that would be hard too. It's like, yeah, can you have a certain time limit and like being on point with that, like the verboseness. Yeah, I would struggle.
yes, trying to get everything in your idea into like 15 minutes or
Yeah,
less was
that's
hard.
crazy.
But I
That's
think
really
I nailed
cool.
it. I think I did it because, okay, I have good news to share. My TEDx talk was selected as a TEDx editor's pick.
Yes, I did kind of know that beforehand, but like y'all don't know that. So snaps for Nicole. That's going to
Yay,
be
thank you.
amazing. Yeah, we don't know as far as you've told me like the final date it will be published, but it might be soon is what we're thinking.
It might be soon,
Or
but
maybe by
again,
the
I have
time this
no idea.
publishes, it might
Yeah,
already be out.
right.
So if you're listening to this and you're like, is it out? Definitely we'll try to update the show notes if it is. You know, we'll do our best to remember to do that if we like if it's happening after the fact. Or just check out Nicole's like Instagram.
Oh, I will be sharing it.
Yeah,
People are going to be
I'm
sick of
sure
me. I'm
it'll
going to be
be
talking
all
about it
over.
all the
And I
time.
will also be sharing it too. So you guys will hear if you
Thank you.
follow one of us, you will see it.
Yes.
But yeah, that's super exciting. Really, I'm excited to watch it. I know my team will be sharing that a lot. I love that. I love that topic because I talk about that with my students a lot. Like how how safety is actually like a feeling we can create too, and it's like we have more power over creating that feeling than we give ourselves
Yes.
credit for. Like sometimes we think
Yes.
it's like only an external thing, but also it's actually an emotion we're creating in our body, like the feeling of safety and stuff like that.
Yes.
So
Oh, I love that. Yes.
yeah,
100%.
really, really cool stuff. Okay, so we love your work and your self-defense work. Us in the backpacking badass community and here at She Dreams of Alpine. Let's maybe like dive into some top myths that you want to bust about this stuff. First, I think like maybe let's talk about mindset. So the skill I teach is to backpackers and like thinking not just about backpacking, but like one of the biggest things I have to tell people is like a lot of your fears around backpacking do come from like honing in your mindset first or like rewiring different beliefs that you have about certain things or just being prepared ahead of time so you can like kind of what we were alluding to earlier, like create safety ahead of time so
Yes.
you're not like waiting for this external like thing to happen. And a lot of people just assume they only need to develop skill sets, and those are definitely crucial. And I'm sure you have your own set of tools and stuff that you teach, but a lot of people forget that mind is a big part of it and like what we think about things. So maybe tell us about like how much of self-defense is physical versus how much is mental? Because I'm sure people have their own like initial thoughts around that.
It is exactly opposite what most people think it is. Most
Yeah,
people think of self-defense and they're thinking physical fighting. It's for when you're in a confrontation. It's for when it's a worst case scenario and you're fighting for your life. And yeah, that's self-defense too. But we're not doing that every day.
right.
Right. And so self-defense, the vast majority of self-defense is non-physical. It is mental, it is verbal, it is mindset, it is emotional, it is recognizing your power more so than it is going around throwing elbows at people.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's one of the
Which
biggest
is
myths that
great
I'm,
news, to be honest.
it
You know,
really it is.
it really is good news.
It's one of the biggest myths that I am still combating even today. It's one of the
Yeah.
first things I talk about in really any session is I ask people, what does that mean to you? What does self-defense mean to you? And then I dive into the fact that it's actually more than physical.
Yeah.
It's not just knees to groins and heel palms to faces, even though that's part of it.
Right.
And the physical part is important because when we learn how to use our body, when we break through those myths, like the myths that tell women that we're weak, we're helpless, we're powerless,
Mhm.
that there's no way we could overpower a man. And self defense isn't about overpowering anyone, it's about causing enough pain to get away. You don't
Yeah.
have to overpower someone. You don't have to outlift someone, out squat someone to be able to cause pain to them to give yourself the space to get away. And
Right.
so breaking down those myths by teaching us how we can use our body and the strengths that we have adds to our mental preparedness and our mindset. Because then
Yes.
instead of thinking to ourselves, oh, I am really weak, you can say to yourself, nah, I remember what Nicole taught me and I
Yes.
could do this if I needed to. I could do this. So you're able to talk yourself out of the negative self talk because
Yes.
you're like, no, wait, I have these reinforcements where I've learned and I know that I have options. And it's
Yeah.
not about guarantees because just like backpacking, we can't guarantee anything. We could pack all
Right.
the right things, have the GPS, plan the route, everything, and something unexpected could happen. It doesn't make it our fault. It doesn't
No.
mean that we have all the preparation, doesn't even mean that that's going to save us, but it means we're probably in a better position having that preparation, having those things than we would be without it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's very similar like with the backpacking skill sets as well. It's like so much of feeling confident out there on the trail is like, yes, learning those physical skills that you need to know so that you feel more empowered. Because a lot of times when people don't have any of those skills, they sit and they think like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I could never do this. And they kind of go down that spiral. And you're like, okay, like one step at a time. Let's learn these things. And
Mm-hmm.
then if you're still kind of like having hesitations, like then it comes into like the self-trust piece. Like I trust myself to like use these skills that I have learned and use these like tools that I know that I have if something comes up, like if something happens. And that's where we kind of have to start, trusting ourselves and practicing that self-trust. And I'm sure it's very similar with the self-defense piece because yeah, you're most likely going out there and you're like, I have these tools now. I just need to trust myself in those moments that if it came up, like I'm equipped. And that's where you can
Yes.
find that confidence. Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember I did a solo hike, a solo day hike to Duck Lake up in the Eastern Sierras, south of
Oh
Mammoth. I went out
yeah.
to I
Taking
went
some
all the way to
clients there this year.
oh, it's so are you going all the way to Pika Lake?
Yeah, probably because it's very
It's
close.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like you go around the lake,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
past that like meadow, and it's so beautiful. And then you get to the little Pika Lake
Yeah,
area.
it's a
Oh, it was
beaut I love
gorgeous.
that lake.
Beautiful. But so you know that section
Yeah.
between, I don't know, you're coming over the hill, you're walking around Duck Lake, and then you
Mhm.
like go over to where Pika is. And it's really just like a trail, super exposed.
Yes.
It's the lake is right here, and then it's just like it's beautiful, but it's
Yeah.
very exposed.
Yeah.
And I remember I was hiking there and I actually filmed an outdoor defense episode right there on the spot because I
Oh,
thought to myself,
nice.
this is the place where a lot of women would think, oh my gosh, if something happened, I wouldn't know what to do. What if
Yeah.
someone was hiding behind this rock right there? That is definitely not a likely scenario. But
Yeah.
a lot of what I end up teaching are not scenarios that are common, but they are
Right.
common fears.
Yeah,
And
and you're
there's
like, yeah, what you worry about, like what people most commonly worry about. Yeah.
yeah, and there's so much value in addressing those because whether or not they are statistically likely, if it's something that we are statistically thinking about most of the time, then it's
Yes.
valuable to address that and bust the myths and give people tangible options. And so I was thinking like, all right, what would I do? And I just remember like, it's so much about mindset, because my mindset is, if someone thinks that they want to try to hurt me, attack me when I'm out there, it's
Yeah.
going to be a really bad day for them.
I love
Just
that.
reframing it. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to make them really regret that they thought this was going to go the way that they thought it was going to go. And
Yes.
I'm going to fight with my voice, with my body if I needed to. But so much of self-defense happens even before it becomes physical. And I'm so
Right.
confident in those skills that I don't think I would have to use my physical, but
Yeah,
I know it's
totally.
there in case I need it.
Yeah. Like so much is like even just with the outdoor other stuff, the outside of stranger danger kind of fears, it's like so much of it is prevention that you have so many like things that happen before that you can really like do for yourself to feel safe and feel confident and like even little things like listening to intuition, which I'm sure you've talked about before. Like if you ever get like a strong intuition about something, like it's okay to call off a hike or like turn around or be like, just listen to it because I feel like sometimes, that's just the best thing to do. But yeah, okay. So speaking of stranger danger, we kind of already started talking about this. That is definitely like the number one fear for women that are solo hiking.
It
It's the
is.
biggest question that I always get for people. Last year when we've done our solo adventure summit, people were asking about that topic a lot. And the idea that maybe like somebody might hurt them in the backcountry. And that fear is definitely fueled a lot by our media and like what we consume in the real world and what people just tell us because they've always been told the same stories too. So a lot of these stories are just kind of like passed down without question. So, how likely is it really for this to happen? And what does the data tell us?
So it is not likely to be attacked by a stranger in the backcountry. It is not the most likely scenario. Does it happen? Has it happened? Yes. I'm sure people listening might say, but I heard about this story or I heard
Right.
about this. Yeah, I'm not saying it never happens.
Yeah.
I'm saying that it doesn't happen at the level at which people think it happens.
Yeah.
And the statistics from RAIN are that 86% of the time women are assaulted by people we know.
Yeah.
And that number has not changed in 40 years. In fact,
Yeah,
I
I
think
remember
it's
your first
increased.
talk, like, yes, I'm hiking solo. You shared some of those statistics, and I was like, that's very fascinating. Like, most, where we should be like maybe most afraid is like in our homes, which is sad to say,
Yes.
but like, or with people that we know. Yeah.
Yes. And the reason why it is 86% of the time is because people who want to hurt us, they don't want to get injured themselves. They often
Mm,
don't want to get caught. And if it's a stranger, they don't want to be recognized.
yeah.
And so it is of value to them as a predator to try to reduce the chance that someone will physically fight back,
Yeah.
reduce the chance that someone will think anything of them when they try to manipulate a situation to get access to somebody. And not just women, like this with children too, right? Like grooming is something that happens with children. With children, the statistics are even worse. 91% of the time, children
Mm,
are abused and assaulted by someone they know or their family knows
yeah.
because of the access, right?
Yeah.
They try to build this trust. They try to build, this, disarm the person using manipulation tools and make you think that they're safe, and try to get people to discount their intuition and reduce their boundaries and things like that. So these are
Right.
all tactics that a predator uses because they want to be able to commit their crime and get away with it.
Right. Which is
And
much
so,
harder to do in like an outdoor space with somebody you
yes,
don't know. Yeah.
yes. So putting those things into perspective, that's just to explain why those numbers are higher than for stranger. Now, stranger
Yeah.
attacks do happen. Like I was attacked by a stranger in Madrid,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
also experienced violence from people I knew growing up as a child, right?
Yeah.
The majority of what I've experienced. And so everyone's story is unique, but it is not statistically more likely for you to be attacked in the outdoors. It is more statistically likely for you to be attacked, somewhere around someone that you know, right?
Right.
Or not a stranger outdoors, maybe somebody in your hiking group, right? Or someone like
Totally.
there's a lot of people who do multi-day guiding trips, or people
Mm,
that run like adult camps or camps. And there's so many stories about abuse and harassment happening in those situations. And again,
yeah.
it's not a stranger, it's somebody you work with, a coach, a teacher, a colleague, another person that's part of your group, etc. And
Yeah.
so that is why the skills that I teach are so valuable, because a lot of times when we're thinking about self-defense in the terms of that it's only strangers, right? We only have to worry about strangers. And then we think self-defense is only physical, then that fits that narrative of, oh, stranger danger, someone attacks me unexpectedly, so I'm going to use my physical skills. But
Yeah.
that's not the most common thing to have to do. So we need to open up that definition of self-defense to give ourselves additional skills that we can use around the people that we know and work with,
Right.
because those are the spaces when we are statistically more at risk. And
Yeah.
learning how to set boundaries, learning how to, like you said, trust your intuition and all these other layers to it allow us to navigate life in these really realistic situations when we might be faced with not just violence, but an uncomfortable conversation or
Yeah.
something that just triggers our intuition or feels off. Like it's just as valid to be protected in those instances too.
Yeah. I even just from perspective, because like you were saying, it's not that things couldn't happen with strangers or anything, but it's kind of like similar analogy sometimes I bring up with clients that are afraid to go on a solo backpacking trip because of other things even outside of like stranger danger, like what if I run into an animal or I get hurt or something like that. I just remind them like our brains are just like we don't oftentimes think of those statistics and think about you getting in a car every day and how statistically dangerous that actually is, like in perspective to us going out into the outdoors and having like a negative animal encounter, for example, is very low. But like we have just normalized the risk of like getting in our cars and going without worrying about it or being overly anxious about it. And it's not that, one risk doesn't exist or isn't like as important, but it's like we're just learning to work with our brains that this is okay too. And we do actually tolerate a certain amount of risk for things that we want to do. Like getting outdoors or like going to drive because these are things that we want in our life. So, yeah, learning to have that conversation in your brain and understanding that, I think like what you just said opens you up to being prepared better for all the situations. So,
Yeah, because we can never eliminate all risk in our life. There's just
no.
no way.
You
It
just
taking,
stay in the house all the time. Like, and
and
even
even
then,
then, yeah, like imagine I snap my fingers and all of a sudden interpersonal violence and gender-based violence is gone.
yeah.
There are still risks and things we
Yeah.
would need to worry about, right? There's still
Right.
other dangers. You could, I mean, I'm not even going to call them into existence, but there's lots of things that are
Yes.
not related to that are still things we need to be aware of that don't eliminate our risk in life. And it's about finding out what you're comfortable with, what
Yeah.
amount of risk you're comfortable with. And like for me, I ride motorcycles. I used to have a bike and I never took my bike on the freeway.
Yeah.
And I know statistically speaking, the freeway is safest because there's not intersections, there's not people running out in the way that you're running through the city, there's no stoplights, so you don't have to worry about someone rear-ending you. Like statistically, it's safer. But I was afraid of how fast everything was going. So I
Yeah.
never actually took my bike on the freeway. And I would
Yeah.
have friends that would tease me and I would say, look, I have a motorcycle. To me, that's dangerous enough. Every time I went on a ride, I wore all my gear because what I learned in safety class is you don't dress for the ride, you dress for the crash.
Right.
And so I took it up PCH and I did other amazing things and took it to the rock store and had so much fun. I eventually sold it because I was traveling too much and couldn't keep it. It's actually a lot of upkeep to keep a bike, especially if you don't
Yeah.
have a garage to do your own maintenance. But it's like that. Like some people would say riding a bike is too much risk. I'm not even going to do it. And
Yeah.
for me, I was like, well, it is, but I'm going to do it I'm going to
In
do it
a
with
way
these
that feels,
precautions.
yeah, acceptable to me. Yeah, I think like the most important, like what you're kind of like emphasizing here is like we all do have our different levels of tolerance for risk, but like telling yourself like the story that it's too risky when you're coming from the perspective of like I just don't understand that risk like very well yet and counting yourself out because of that, that's where it's like we need to make that distinction. It's like let's understand it all and then you can like judge whether like it's a risk you want to take and learn if you want to have more or less of that risk, I guess, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm being a little bit high
Yes.
level here, but hopefully
No,
I'm
it makes sense. It's education. Like
yeah.
when we learn more about something, then it takes that fear, takes that unknown, because a lot of times we're afraid of the unknown or
Yeah,
all we
the
hear are the
unknown
other
100%.
stories. But like when we are more educated about it, then we can decide if we want to take the risk or not. Maybe
Right.
one time we do and one time we don't. And that's fine. We're allowed to like change our decision making. But like to the point that you said earlier, like there's there's no way that we can eliminate risk. Even staying in our homes doesn't eliminate risk.
Right.
And so we can't wait until the world is a 100% completely safe place before we actually go out and live. We're
Yeah.
gonna have to balance some amount of risk every time we wake up in the morning to live our lives. Otherwise, we aren't going to live.
And also, this is like kind of going into this whole topic a little bit deeper, but something I talk about a lot is this concept of aliveness and like how a lot of us think we're chasing this feeling of happiness. But I think as humans, we're actually chasing the feeling of feeling alive, like things that make us feel like really in tune with everything, like really like in our purpose, like really just lit up, like just excited. And I don't think that's always happiness because like the most alive moments that I've had are like in moments of challenge, in risk, in a little bit of danger. And like I think it's actually really healthy to be doing stuff as humans. Like I think we're built to really thrive in like having a little bit of uncertainty and risk to have that like joy and feeling and that like purpose and all of those things. So
I
yeah,
agree. I agree 100%. It's also why amusement parks make so much money, right? Like we want to get on that
right.
roller coaster and feel afraid, but we know we're safe, but we want to chase that feeling of being alive. I love that.
Yeah.
They were,
Yeah.
yeah, we want to be alive. We want to feel alive. I
We
love
want to
that.
feel alive. Yeah. And so I mean, I don't really know where I was going that in the context of self-defense, but it just all comes back to like understanding the risk and equipping yourself and all the things. So getting us back on track because I kind of went off. One of the things when it comes to stranger danger, especially like in our social media, not with my clients or as much because we educate them on this topic a lot, but a lot of people like in social media and stuff will say, carry a gun, like especially if we post solo content, they're like, you should be carrying a gun. This I would never go out solo without my gun. I'll just for the record, I've never carried a gun. I don't even have like a license or a gun. So, and I've been doing solo adventures for over a decade now. So I'm curious to get your expert take on self-defense weapons, including guns, but also things like Wolverine keys, pepper spray, anything kind of like that. Because I know you have a very unique opinion on those things too.
Yeah. So I do not advocate for, nor do I recommend external weapons when it comes to gender based violence and personal safety and protection, right?
Yeah,
And I say that caveat because there's a lot of different elements to the safety world. Like there's people who do like home security and concealed carry and all these
for
other types.
sure.
I'm talking specifically in the context of our conversation here, solo hiking, women worried about personal safety, gender-based violence, interpersonal violence. When it comes to that specifically, having tools and weapons do not necessarily increase your safety. In fact, self-defense gun use has not been shown in any study to reduce your risk of injury.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to weapons, training is going to be the most important thing. And
Yes.
that's always the thing that I say. Like, I don't tell
That's the
people
thing I
not.
emphasize too. I'm like, yeah, people can give you that advice, but if you've never had any training on it, you're actually like in a worse off spot.
Yes, yes. So I don't recommend, I don't advocate for them. I don't carry any weapons at all. I mean, I carry a, what do you call it? A like a Swiss Army knife. What is a Victorinox like multi-tool? That's the
Yeah.
word I'm trying to say. A multi-tool. But I don't carry it for self-defense. I carry it for survival. I carry it for
Yeah.
gear repair. Could I use it in a pinch? Sure, but I don't train with it. I'm not a
Yeah.
knife fight trained. So
Yeah.
that's probably not going to be a thing that I'm gonna pull out of my pack and know how to use it in any meaningful way to protect myself and when I have my entire body that I can use. And
Yeah.
so with that said, I don't ever tell people what to do. I'm not going to tell people don't
Right.
carry it or you should carry it. I don't do either. But I will say that if you carry something, you have to train with it. Really train with it, not just buy it and put it in your pack or put it in your keep it in your tent or have it in your pocket. Like you have to be training with it consistently because what happens to our body when we are experiencing stress is our body secretes adrenaline. And what
Mhm.
adrenaline does to your body physiologically is that it reduces your logic and reasoning. That part of your brain shuts down. And now you're in fight and flight mode.
Yeah.
And it reduces your fine motor skills, things like using your fingers, typing your password into your phone, even grabbing your phone out, getting an object out and being able to articulate your fingers to pull a trigger, push, to press a button, whatever. and it increases your gross motor skills. That means if you're not training with whatever you plan to use in a self-defense situation, there is a good chance that it's not going to respond the way you're expecting it to
Right.
in those moments. Even people that train consistently, law enforcement, FBI, anyone else who for their job has to concealed carry, they go through hours and hours and hours of training. And
Yeah.
we still know of instances where even then, even with all of that training, things don't always go the way they plan. And
Yeah.
so training is a big part of it. And media and movies and TVs gives us this warped sense of what it would be
Yes.
like. And
Yeah.
that's not real. That's not realistic.
Yeah.
And
It makes
so
for really great Hollywood.
it really does. And I used to work in
Yes.
TV production. I never did a show where we did like fight choreography, but I know I've done car shows where we had to do car choreography and like pyrotechnics. And
Yeah.
that's a whole planned thing. And same thing with any other kind of, fight weapons, whatever in the industry. Like it's all fake for TV. So we
Yeah.
can't use that as our example of, oh, I'll be able to protect myself. And then anything that you bring into a fight can be used against you.
Yeah.
And when it
Which is
comes
such
to
an important thing to note. Yeah.
and the statistics regarding that is women are attacked by people with a weapon 11% of the time.
Mm.
That means 89% of the time there's no weapon, which
Yeah.
means if you bring a weapon into a fight, now you are in a
And you've
weapons fight.
introduced it. Yeah.
Yes. And if for some reason the other person gets a hold of it, now it can be used against you.
Also,
And
it can
again,
be seen even like escalating a situation. Like it seems more
yes.
aggressive too. Like I'm sure maybe you were going to say that, but like, yeah.
No, absolutely. And it's like when it comes to lethal types of weapons like guns and knives, that's something that only you can answer for yourself if you're willing and ready to take
Right.
someone's life. And not only that, what are the implications beyond that? Because now we're talking about the criminal justice system.
Hmm.
Now there's, money for lawyer. Like there's so much more to it than just saying like, oh yeah, I would do that. I mean, maybe you would, maybe I would, I don't know, but that's something that we have to actually think about
Yeah.
instead of treating these lethal weapons so blasé as if they are that's the thing that's going to save you. Statistically, that's not the thing that's going to save you in a
Right.
situation. And
Yeah.
literally, if safety and protection was that simple, where all you had to do was carry a weapon like that, I would
Right.
be a firearm salesperson, right? I
Yeah.
would just sell that and that would be it. And that would be my job. But I
Yeah.
don't, because I know that what I teach is something that has been shown to be effective. The research backs it up. Again, not just for worst case scenarios, but for all the instances in our lives when we need to deal with something in which it's not practical, logical, or legal to bring out any kind of weapon, including,
Right.
pepper spray and things beyond. I wanted to share a couple of notes for you that I pulled specifically for our
Yeah.
episode, if that's okay. And
Yes, definitely.
this is from research, peer reviewed research from years, from through the years, and we'll make sure that we put them in the we'll have them in the show notes in case anyone wants
Yes.
to fact check. So, international studies suggest that handgun ownership is associated with increased risk of violent victimization. So it doesn't actually reduce your risk, it is increases the
Increases.
risk. And then I'm going to say a disclaimer because I'm going to talk about suicide, but so elevated rates of gun access in households are associated with increased risks of homicide and suicide over time by household and at a
Yeah.
population level, and more likely to be from someone right? It's someone from that household.
Right.
High gun ownership does not appear to convey any meaningful protection against violent victimization at a population level. And yeah, case controlled studies have repeatedly found that gun ownership is associated with an increased risk of gun related homicide or suicide occurring in the home. And fear can, in particular, bias assessments away from rational analysis to overestimate risks, as well as to perceive negative events as unpredictable,
Yeah.
insofar as like the psychology of why people want to carry a weapon. And then
Yes.
it says most research comparing gun owners to non-gun owners suggests that ownership is rooted in fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there
It
is, oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say that's so true. I like have never, well, I don't have anything. I grew up in Texas, y'all. I don't have anything against people deciding for themselves that they want to own a gun. Um,
Absolutely.
but I don't, I never have. But I do have friends that have some. And every time they talk to me about like me not having one, they're so scared for me and all of the things. And it's like a lot of their stuff is rooted so much in fear. I just thought that statistic that you read, it's just like so true. And I just kind of live my life like I have a lot of self-trust and I do all the things that I can. And this
Yeah.
is what I've chosen personally for myself.
Same. And it's about, it's about educating people about what it actually is, like the facts that are out there. And then from those facts, people can make whatever decision they want.
Yeah.
But like this stat says, for many gun owners, fears about victimization can result in confirmation and optimism biases that
Mm.
not only discount the risks of ownership, but also elevate the perceived benefit, however remote, as it does when one buys a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
And then two more quick ones that I wanted to share that I thought were relevant to what you said
Okay.
about
Yeah, go for it.
escalating the situation. There's
Yeah.
conflicting evidence that gun ownership actually decreases fears of victimization, and some of the studies that actually increased them because now it's something you're thinking about all the time
Yeah, you're like, I
because you
have it
have
with
this
me. I'm
weapon.
being really hyper aware of all these
Yes.
things. Yes.
Yes. And then the last thing is
It's
something
like
known as
what
the
you
weapon.
focus on, you create. Sorry.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
that's right. The last one is that a review of 56 published studies reported that the mere sight of weapons increases aggression in both
Yeah.
angry and non-angry individuals.
I could totally see that, like if somebody was maybe intending to be aggressive, but then like you introduce like an aspect to it, and then that just could escalate where they go. Or like, have you ever seen road rage? It's like you've seen somebody mad and then you get mad back at them and then it escalates their madness. Like
Yes.
whereas if you just like didn't say anything, it probably just would they'd just go be mad and keep going like on their way or something. But
Yeah.
yeah.
It's there's so much research, there's so much information out there, whether people want to read it or they think that it's relevant or not. It's
Yeah.
out there. There's ways to read it, but really the
We'll
bottom
put them in
line
our
is
show
that
notes. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't reduce your risk of injury. It actually does not reduce your risk of victimization. Studies have shown it actually can increase your risks of violent escalation or violent victimization. And then if you do still decide that you're going to have this weapon, that is 100% your choice. And just training with it is going to be
Yeah.
the most important thing,
I agree.
And I know we see stories sometimes about someone successfully using a gun in a
Yeah.
situation, but that occurs in fewer than 1% of contact crimes. And so, of
Yeah.
course, we're going to see those represented in the news, but we don't see the fact that when it comes to like domestic violence, for instance, the presence of a gun in a domestic violence situation increases the risk of homicide of the abuse victim
Mhm.
by 500%,
Yeah.
simply by having a gun in the home.
Yeah.
So there's all this information out there. And again, it may seem like I'm trying to like bias someone either way, but I just want to share the facts because there's a lot of information out there that it's rooted in fear and not necessarily based on the research, but just colloquial. And I
Yeah.
just want to give people, if you listen to this and you don't agree with me, great. Please go research, go look it up
Yeah.
for yourself. Like don't just take my word for it. The information is out there. And I just want to help people be more educated about it and to not feel like you need this thing to keep you safe. These things, these weapons are not the thing that's going to keep you safe. Having them do not statistically make you safer. Not having them doesn't make you statistically more at risk. Your whole
Right.
body is a weapon.
I think that's so important too, because like Nicole, when people tell that to people, when you have like, oh, if you're going to go solo, you should be carrying a gun or some sort of weapon, it makes solo adventuring as a woman way more inaccessible. Like
Yes.
you're automatically like limiting women because this is like a whole nother thing. Because like you said, if you're going to have a weapon, you need to go get trained and you need to like, and it's not an inexpensive thing to get trained in.
It is not.
And no, and I feel like that's the one of the biggest reasons I hate it when people say that to women. I'm like, you literally are just cutting them off from something that's like so mentally and physically beneficial to somebody just because of your fear and lack of like knowledge around the statistics of this and just
Yes.
spreading that. So I think it's really good news and I'm really glad. I know it's a topic that will probably have like a wide range of opinions on, but for me, like I think it's important that women have this information and they can make their own judgment on what they want to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And regarding like the legality, I'm not a lawyer. So of course I have to like preface this. Everything I'm stating is pulled from like research
Yeah.
and things. But like the legal aspect of it, you might not be able to have a weapon where you are. Like most
Yeah.
national parks, aren't all national parks, you're not allowed to carry a weapon. You can't have a gun.
Yeah.
I know when I was pulling permits for Whitney, like it says on your permit, no weapons allowed in the backcountry.
Yeah.
Is that
Even,
going to stop people? I mean, no,
yeah.
but again, you're not supposed to. And then if you're traveling, like say I live in California, I want to hike in Rhode Island. Am I
Yes.
going to
The
travel
rules
with
are
my,
different.
yeah, they're going to be different wherever you go. And that can be a limiting factor. If you're traveling internationally to solo hike and you felt like the only way you're safe is by carrying this item, and then you're going somewhere where you can't have it. Now
Yeah.
you might start feeling an increased anxiety and fear because you've put so much emphasis on this external thing being the thing that's going to save you and be your security. And I
Yeah.
just want people to put that back into themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Um, okay. So I think that's like a really great segue. So I know that you have all your workshops and all the stuff that teach like the self-defense skills, but maybe you could just share with us one of your number one self-defense strategies that listeners can take home with them today as they're listening to this topic.
I would say the most important tool that you can carry with you, the number one strategy that I think is beneficial for everybody is to know that you are worth fighting for.
Yeah.
Like simply that knowledge, that mindset.
Mhm.
And being worth fighting for doesn't just mean you're worth physically fighting for, because you are. Yes, we
Yeah.
are worth. If my safety is at risk, I am worth fighting for.
Yes.
It's human. It's it's literally a survival mechanism that all animals have to survive, right? To live to the next day. So if
Right.
I'm being threatened, I have the right to fight for my survival. I am worth fighting for. But
Yeah.
in addition, I'm also worth fighting for in all the other ways in which that means, right? I'm
Yeah.
worth advocating for with my partner at the doctor's office, with my therapist, with my kids, with my boss, with my colleagues. Like I am worth creating the safety in my life that I deserve and that I need for.
Yeah.
And however we do that or I shouldn't say however we do that, but like I teach many ways that people can do that. But just that knowledge of knowing you're worth it and really believing it. I mean, look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and just say, I'm worth fighting for. And just see
Right.
if that doesn't change how you see yourself and how you move through the world.
I love that. It's like I'm worth fighting for, I'm worth advocating for, like what I want, my boundaries, like things that I think are important. Like that's very valuable. I think that's a really great takeaway. Thank you. Okay, so something I like to do with all of our guests is like some fun rapid fire questions. People who know you or don't know you can get a little bit behind the scenes of kind of like Nicole and hear some of your favorite stuff. So, okay, the first question I have is what is your go-to trail snack?
I like Oreos.
Ooh, I love a
Yeah,
good Oreo. Like a
same.
Summit Oreo. It's the best.
Yes. Yes.
That's not what I was expecting you to say. I don't know why. Like when
What did you
I was
think I was
like,
going to
I
say?
don't know. I guess I thought you were gonna say something really healthy because you're like very healthy, and I just was like, oh, she's gonna say something like that. But I love that
Girl,
you have cream.
when I'm hiking and backpacking, give me all the sugary snacks, give me all the salty snacks. I will tear up some Oreos. I really love these little chocolate covered mint creams from Trader Joe's, but depending on how hot the
Oh,
hike is, they might just turn
oh
into a
yeah, they'll get really
chocolatey
melty.
mess.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
sometimes I bring them anyways.
I do. I love a good Oreo on a hike. That's great. Okay, what's one or two top things on your adventure bucket list right now?
I want to go to Alaska. That's the last state for me to visit, and then I will
Yeah.
have been to all 50 states.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Anywhere in
And
particular? Just anywhere in
I mean, I
Alaska.
would love to
Okay.
go to Katmai in the spring, summer, so I can
Mm,
see the grizzlies and eating the salmon.
yes.
And I want to see the northern the aurora, so I need to go in the
Me
winter for that.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are two seasons, so it sounds like you have two Alaska trips.
I know. I'm gonna see if I can get to Alaska this year and do something
Yeah.
in the like fall, winter. And I think I'm gonna go to what is it, Fairbanks? Forget.
Okay,
I
cool.
Googled like what's the best place to potentially see the aurora, and it was either Fairbanks or Juneau, and I forget which one, but one of those.
Yeah, I think one of my employees, she recently spent like a month up near Fairbanks and she saw the Northern Lights. Yeah.
Can I pick her brain?
Yeah, it was Kate. I don't know. We'll connect you with her if you want.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so what's a big hiking goal on your radar for 2025, if any?
So I do a yearly solo backpacking trip. Like if because I'm busy and I travel and I'm like, I'm gonna do at least one. I'm gonna do at
I love
least one
it.
a year. So I have one coming up this spring, and it's a trail that I've done before as a day hike, but I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
backpack it this time. And
Oh,
I'm gonna be in the
nice.
Eastern Sierras. So I'm excited for
Oh,
that.
fun. Yes, I love that. I'm also planning like a little mini solo trip here soon. It's like, when you're so busy, it's like hard to, you have to be really intentional with planning those things, or like sometimes your time just slips away really fast.
Yeah.
Um, okay, what's your favorite piece of gear that you can't live without?
Chapstick.
Ooh, chapstick. Okay. I love
Hands
that.
down.
You
I
will
need my
demolish the
chapstick.
chap. You and my husband, like, are you one of those people that has a chapstick in like every like jacket pocket, like the car? There's
Yes.
several in every desk. Like, I have to buy him like 10 packs because he loses them, but he needs them constantly.
I have them in places that if I accidentally forget or I lose one, I can be like, oh, I still have a
Oh, I
backup
still have one here.
somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. You guys would get along. That's great. Do you have like a favorite brand of chapstick?
No, not even. I mean, I think
Hmm.
I like the one that has SPF because of course we
Yes.
want to protect our skin. So as
Yeah.
long as it has SPF in it, I will get whatever is on sale
Cool.
at the store.
Okay. What's one place you would happily hike over and over again?
Oh gosh, the Eastern Sierras,
Yeah.
really. Anywhere in there. Just I mean, give me those blue lakes. I don't think I could ever get tired of that.
Yeah, I could live there and just die happy, I think. One day
Seriously.
I will go back. Okay. What's your favorite way to celebrate after a big adventure?
Eat a giant vegetarian burger
Nice.
with sweet potato fries
Oh,
and
yes.
some kind of sweet. I have a sweet tooth. So, some kind of like a giant cookie, a
Hmm.
slice of carrot cake. There's this place in Lone Pine where I always get this amazing coffee cake. Like, get one of those, like
Oh, nice.
something big and what's the word I'm looking for? Savory, but then
Yeah.
something sweet at the end.
I'm the same. Yeah. Or like every now and then it'll be a big salad that I'm craving. I'm just like, if
Mm,
you've been on the trail for like 6 days or something and your body's like, I haven't had a vegetable, like a proper vegetable in like a long time. Sometimes I'll be like that.
that's
But
true.
burger and pizza are like the most common answer to that question.
Yeah. And sweet potato fries. You cannot forget the sweet
Oh
potato
yeah.
fries. That like
That
that makes it.
that definitely would make it. I love a good sweet potato fry. Okay, before we kind of close out this podcast, is there one myth about self-defense or solo adventuring that you wish you could bust once and for all?
Oh gosh, it's so hard to pick one because
I
there's
know.
so many. I would say just the overarching myth and the socialization that we have as women, where it's like
Yeah.
we're supposed to compare ourselves to men. Everything is comparison to, well, can a man do this? Can a no, how about we just say like women are just going to do this. We can do this. We don't have to compare
Yeah.
ourselves to anyone else. We don't have to be bigger, stronger, faster than anyone else or any other gender. We can just go out. We can do it. We have the capability, and we can learn the skills that we need to do something that is skills based,
Right.
and just getting rid of those barriers in our mind and our socialization, and just be like, nah, we're fully capable, thanks, let's go.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's like, and not always defaulting to like it. If you're commonly defaulting to like maybe your male partner or something to be the leader and these kinds of things, that you can be a leader. And that's just something I think like a lot of us weren't socialized to see ourselves as. So I love that. Okay, so kind of like wrapping this up, a little teaser that we wanted to give y'all is Nicole will be presenting at our annual Solo Adventure Summit. So one thing, we've been hosting this Solo Adventure Summit for the last 2 years now. So this will be our third Solo Adventure Summit. And one of the most commonly requested speakers is somebody to speak on self-defense. And we have finally gotten to get to work with Nicole for this summit. So she will be one of our speakers on our Solo Adventure Summit this year that's taking place June 5th and June 6th. She's going to be talking about unlock any solo adventure with these three keys of self-defense. So if you are wanting to learn more about this stuff, there's a ton of resources, and Nicole's going to share some other places you can connect with her. But like, if you want to learn even more, especially when it pertains to going on solo adventures, definitely make sure you look out for our registration page for the Solo Adventure Summit. So I think by the time we release this episode, we'll be opening up registration just shortly after. So keep an eye out for that on my Instagram or on my newsletter. And we'll be sharing all the details of how you can join her session. We're very, very excited about that.
I'm
Yeah.
excited to be a part of it this year. Thank you for not giving up and for inviting me to do
We're
it this year.
persistent. There are like several speakers we've asked every year. And I think this year we've gotten like a couple of them. We're like, yes, yeah, let's do
Awesome.
this. You're a busy woman. So like, I totally understand. Okay, Nicole, as we wrap up, where can our listeners connect with you now and some of your resources that you might want to share with them?
They can find me on my website, NicoleSnell.com. Also on my YouTube page, which is Nicole_Snell. And then it's Outdoor Defense. If you just search Outdoor Defense, it should come up. Can I talk about my online course?
Yeah, sure.
So I have an online course, Yes, I'm Hiking Solo, as an online on-demand lifetime access course available now. And I'm on Instagram and TikTok. Instagram, I'm at Adventures of Nick, and that's N-I-K, Adventures of N-I-K. And then on TikTok, I don't know why I didn't pick the same username. I should have. I am Nicole Snell _self-defense. And
You know what? Yeah. As you kind of build your business, sometimes these things happen scrappily. Like it just is.
it's like it's got my name. I think that's good enough. And then I have my business page, Girls Fight Back, is Girls Fight Back on Instagram, Facebook, and on TikTok as well.
I love it. I will also, for anybody who's like, oh, I didn't write all those things down, I will have them in the show notes. So if you want to find links to those things, we will also link those things in the show notes for you so you can have quick access to them. So, but yeah, thank you so much, Nicole. This was great. I think this is a really important conversation that we had. I really enjoyed kind of getting your perspective and being able to share that with our listeners today.
This was wonderful. We talked about things that I haven't talked about on other podcasts, and I always love it when that happens. So
Oh,
thank you.
good. Yay. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and I will see you next week. Okay. Bye. Hey, I wanted to thank you real quick for tuning into the show and listening all the way to the end. If you love this episode and you want deeper support in becoming a safe, confident, and self-sufficient hiker and backpacker, then head over to shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist to learn more about our Backpacking Badass coaching program, where I teach you absolutely everything you need to know to be self-reliant on the trails and stop waiting around on others for the adventure invite. So I'd love to help you more in your journey of stepping into your adventurous identity, and that program is the absolute best place for us to start working together. So again, that's shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist, and you can learn all about it there. So that's it for today, folks. I hope you get to spend some time outside this week, and I'll be back very soon with a brand new episode. Bye.